Hey, Cindy Gould here, and welcome back to Create Your Victorious Life, and welcome to the Spanglish World Networks on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on your respective app stores, either iOS or Android. While you download, please leave us a stellar rating and a comment. We'd love to see that. And the app is totally free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and on your smart TVs, not the dumb ones, from 2016 and going forward. Now, today, I'm just going to welcome back one of my favorite people in the whole world, Dr. Michelle Odette Green, and she has been a fan favorite on our show. She also has her own TV show, which can be seen tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific. Yes. And we can talk about that as well. One of the things that I just love, there's so many things you can say about, being a best-selling author. Holy smack, she's such a phenomenal speaker. So many awards. She's an amazing mama, wife, all the things. And yet one of the things that I love about her is, and that's our topic today, is that she just goes around teaching and empowering people to be happy and to be happier and in very practical, real ways. And so today we're going to talk about how to be happy from the inside out, because that is the key. And so without further ado, welcome.
Hey, I'm glad to be here today.
Yay. I'm so happy you're here. I'm going to launch off with a question, and then you know how you and I roll anyway. But so there's two questions I have. One of them is kind of funny. So, what's the weirdest or most surprising thing that makes you happy?
The weirdest or most surprising thing that makes me happy is hearing my 2-year-old grandson communicate with me. He is so adorable. And, it's really not that it is weird. It is actually amazing to me how he has developed at such a young age and he understands exactly what he's talking about. So I'll give you an example
Mm-hmm.
that was really cute to me. So had an opportunity to spend time with my grandchildren last weekend, and my 12-year-old grandson, he plays baseball. And so the 2-year-old, he loves the game and he is very good at it. He mirrors his brother. So when his brother does the various stances, how he swings the bat, so on and so forth, my 2-year-old, he pays attention, that mirror neurons going. At any rate, he's sitting at the table getting ready to eat his dinner. So he wanted to let me know that his brother, that he made a strike. He said, Peyton made a strike. Peyton made a strike. Now, his mother says he knows the difference between the two. But what I found funny
Oh,
was that later on, he wanted to demonstrate to me what happened. So he came running and then he slid and he said Peyton slid like that. So he was showing how he was sliding into the base. And then he let me know still Peyton made a strike. And so initially that was to me that he was trying to tell me that Peyton slid to make the base. But then his mom reminded me, no, he knows the difference. So he was telling you two different things. And it's just makes me happy, just seeing my grandkids and my 2-year-old now who is extremely smart. He has stuff down. He knows his mother's full name. I'm like, he told me his mama's full name. I'm like, okay, yes. And there's so much more I can tell you about that two-year-old. But that is one thing that makes me happy because of the things that he will say. It's like a surprise.
yeah. You know what I love? The grandbabies, I have mine, and they bring us this enormous joy. My youngest grandson, Benjamin, he before he could say his R's, he would say Guams, Guams. And then as soon as he started saying his R's, I'm like, no, 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 just keep it Guams. Because it's just so, it does make you feel happy and just their little personalities. And it's wild because I remember when my children were younger and they're really smart. I mean, of course, right? There are babies. I'm looking at these kiddos, though, these grandchildren, and it just blows my mind the things that they say and how articulate they are. His sister Penelope, who's now older, 9, but she, I mean, even at such a young age, and even my grandniece, Nani, they could at 18 months. Nani's like doing the whole alphabet
Yes.
at 18 months and says it like I'm like, wow, whoa, like right. And I remember, our kids would get to maybe pre-K or what would they? Our kids didn't even go to preschool, right? I mean, they didn't have that like they do now, but kindergarten, and we'd teach them at home, and then they'd go, right? I mean, it's just so, but those kinds of things do make you so happy. So here's another question for you. So this is so fun. If you could describe happiness as a flavor, what would it taste like?
If I could describe happiness as a flavor, what would it taste
Mm.
like? Ooh, well, see, my flavor is probably different from other folks' flavor. So I am going to go with rainbow sherbet. Yes, so that just
Ooh,
mixes in all the different flavors. And I do
yeah.
love rainbow sherbet, as well as my favorite dessert is cheesecake. So, che- so cheesecake and rainbow sherbet ice cream.
Scoop on top.
What a combination.
It's
What a
great last night,
quirky combination.
right? The yummy combo. What's interesting is so last night I had dinner with Nicholas and his sweetheart Casey and her auntie, and but we had this divine lemon meringue cheesecake for dessert. I'll send you the picture. It's like so good. I mean, it was just yum, yum. In anticipation of your favorite today. It's funny because when I thought about that question, I thought, what would my flavors be? Depending on the day. One day it would totally be a delicious steak, like a steak. That sounds like happy. And then the other would be like mocha almond fudge or English toffee, something with caramel and maybe a coffee flavor. So I totally get that. So we hear just a ton about happiness. There's a lot. It's almost like a buzzword sometimes, but what does happiness from the inside out truly mean to you? Like how would you
Thank you
explain
for
that?
asking that question. Many years ago, I decided that my mission in life was to educate and inspire individuals to lead a happy, healthy, and productive life. And every time I thought
Mhm.
about the word happy, I always felt like it was fleeting. And I would hear other people say happiness is fleeting because happiness is contingent on outside circumstances, the car, the house, the job, and those things can be temporary. So, how can happiness be something that you can cultivate from the inside out? And as I have been on this
Mm.
personal development journey, I have actually learned exactly that. And I am a certified happy for no reason coach. And so being happy from the inside out is really about being happy based on just having joy in your life and it's not predicated on outside circumstances. So it doesn't matter what you have, who's around you, you learn the skills necessary to cultivate happiness and joy that is not depending on outside circumstances or influences. So for me, that is what true happiness from the inside out is that, and I'm repeating it one more time for someone who needs to hear it one more time, that it is based on you being happy that surpasses all understanding and is not contingent
Yes.
on outside circumstances.
Mm, love it. So you mentioned
Yes.
joy, and and there are so many times where I even see posts, I hear people talk, and all of that, and I hear people kind of interchange the words joy and happy. But you and I both know there's a real profound difference. What is that?
So I'm glad you asked because joy, when I initially looked at my mission, being happy versus being joyous or joyful, I dug deep to find
Mm,
out, okay, should I be using a different word other than happy because of
mm,
that fleeting concept that is based on
right.
temporary circumstances? Whereas with joy, if you go really look up the definition of joy, or if you do a study on joy, it's really about you having, again, that happiness in the inside or joy in the inside that it doesn't matter
Mm,
what's going on in your life. It doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter who's around you. You have this joy that's a joy that is unexplainable. You know that you just feel good in the inside. And again, it can be for any reason except for having to be predicated on outside circumstances. Now, what I want to even drill down a little bit more on that with the word joy and with the word happiness,
mhm.
it really comes down to your brain environment. And what I mean by your brain environment, it is based on your neurochemicals and how they are managed within your body. And so once you have, to me, you have the facts about how your brain works and how the neurochemicals will influence how you feel, then I believe that you can do something about it and that you can actually spark more neurochemicals to be happier and to be more joyful. And I do want to talk about, and before I talk about it, I want to turn it back over to you. I want to talk about what is called your happiness set point and what that actually means. So, just bottom lining your answer regarding the joy versus happiness. It is believed that
Mhm.
happiness is fleeting, is based on external circumstances, and joy is based on just being happy because, just because. It doesn't have to be anything going on. You just have joy in your heart just to be alive. And so I know that
Yeah,
you can intertwine the two words and have more happiness and joy and fulfillment in your life through managing your neurochemicals.
I love that. So talk to us then about the neurochemicals. Like, how does somebody manage them? How do you know you've mismanaged them? What the heck are they? Like, I know what they are, but I would love for you to share, just with our audience that's watching now or in the future, even, how does somebody do
Yes.
that?
So before I talk about the neurochemicals, it's important to actually to frame it, and I want to talk about the happiness set point first, if you don't mind. I would love to go there
Perfect.
first.
Not
so
at all.
so so
Not at all.
we've heard about the thermometer versus the thermostat, right? The thermostat is where you set it at a certain temperature, and when the, say, for your AC, your air conditioner, you set that, say, at 70 degrees in your house. And if it goes below, and I'm saying your AC, but I probably should say your heater. So let's go with heat. Let's go with
Yeah.
heat. I think heat is
You're,
going to be better.
you're in
So if
Arizona.
you set the heat at 70 degrees, and then if it drops below
Mhm.
70 degrees, it's going to kick in to bring it back up to that 70 degrees. So let's just leave it at that.
Mhm.
So your thermostat is in place to kick in to get you back up to that set point that you set it. So we are all born, I should say, with a happiness set point. And It is
Okay.
determined through scientists, through scientific studies, that you can measure a person's happiness set point. And this is what the numbers break down to. So let
Wow.
me tell you that. So 50% is based on your genetics. And then 10%
Okay.
is based on your outward circumstances. And then 40% is
Okay.
based on your habits and your thoughts. And we know that your habits and your thoughts create your behaviors. And here's what the great news is that with epigenetics, we now understand that we can influence our habits and our thoughts. And part of influencing our habits and our thoughts is understanding how neurochemicals work in your body. So if we go back to those
Mhm.
numbers, if we know that 50% is predicated on on genetics, I should say, and 40% is based
Mhm.
on habits and thoughts, then we have
Mhm.
90% of
Right.
influence on
Right.
our happiness set point. We can always get that happiness set point raised. And one way to get
Oh.
it raised is by understanding how the neurochemicals work in your body. And so
Mhm.
now we can go to neurochemicals, but do you have a question before I go to neurochemicals?
Yes, ma'am. Before you move on, because I want people to understand this. This is, I love this. And those of you who keep seeing me look down, no, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm taking massive notes because this is so great. So, can you please explain just briefly to everybody what epigenetics is
Absolutely.
so they understand?
Absolutely. So with epigenetics, we all come in coded, if you will, through our DNA. And we have certain genes that we can turn on or we can turn off based on our thoughts, our actions, things that we eat, so on and so forth. And so you have influence over that. So, for instance, and God rest my dad's soul, I know that he would be okay with me telling his business, put it that way. So, my dad was at one point in his life an alcoholic. And praise God, he actually was able to overcome that. And in his later years,
Yep.
he was sober and he lived a more fulfilling life. What I recognized was that my dad had that gene. And I didn't want that
Okay.
gene to be expressed in my life. So it steered me away from drinking because I didn't want to take the chance to start drinking and then I become an alcoholic because that gene was passed on
Yep.
to my dad. And so when I talk about
Yep.
epigenetics, it's that you have the ability to not turn on that gene. It may be in your body sitting there
Yep.
dormant, but you can do something to activate that gene, and then you find yourself acting and doing things that they could be
Yep.
resourceful. I'm not going to say activating a gene in your body is all unresourceful, but then I'm speaking right now of the unresourceful from an unresourceful perspective. So epigenetics is really about, it says above the genes, that you have the ability to control which genes are turned on and which genes are turned off. And so that's just a really simplistic explanation of what epigenetics is. So above
Well, you know what's so
above,
great?
so that's above the genes. So I'll turn it back over to you.
No, no, no. What I was going to say, what's so great about that is intuitively in your spirit, in your heart, you knew what epigenetics was before you could define what
Hmm.
epigenetics is. And what's ironic is I literally had this conversation last night over dinner with Nicholas and Casey and her auntie because I I've never drank either. You know, I took a wine class when I was 38 and I was like, I don't get it. You know, I mean, that was like my thing. But it was for that very reason. I knew not my parents didn't have this, but from other people that I in our family, that there was addiction in our families somewhere, right? And I didn't ever want to turn that on in me. And so at age 12, I made a decision. I'll never do this, and literally that was the beginning and end was that class. And it wasn't until I was 38. And then that was it. Okay, I'm done. I mean, it was just literally that thing. But it was for that very reason. I knew somewhere that I could flip that switch on
Mhm.
or off.
Yes.
Right. So, okay. So, because I love this. This is so
Yes,
great. Thank
yes.
you.
So now moving to the neurochemicals aspect, there are neurochemicals going on at all times within our body, and that is part of how we function. Every thought, every word, movement, we're activating neurochemicals within our body. And once you understand those neurochemicals, then you can start monitoring how you're feeling, and then you can implement strategies to manage your neurochemicals so that you can have more joy in your life and you can be more happier, because believe it or not, neurochemicals, they pave neural pathways in your brain. And so that's important to understand, that you are actually laying down new tracks in your brain that creates your behaviors. And so now, I'm going to only talk about four of the neurochemicals as it relates to happiness.
Okay.
I'll talk about a couple others that you want to really manage, and you can use the four to dial down a couple of them in your body, if you will. So for women especially, we need more oxytocin because we have a whole lot of stuff going on with our hormones. Our hormones are much more complicated than men's hormones. So oxytocin is one that we really, really need. So let me just start with saying that your happy chemicals are not always turned on. And when people understand that you have ups and
Mhm.
downs and that they're not meant to be on all the time, they're just not, and you understand that ups and downs are natural, you'll understand now that if you're sad about something, that doesn't mean you're depressed and you need to go to the doctor and get medication. It now makes you
Thank you.
understand, oh, this is a natural occurrence within my body. This is natural. So now that I know that I'm feeling this way, now I can take action to actually do something about feeling better. Yeah, so
100%.
so I first of all,
100%.
I want to say everything that I talk about today is based on neuroscience. And at the same time, if you have had to resort to medication, please don't stop your medication, because that's dangerous to stop that. You don't want to just stop that.
100%.
And you can talk to your doctor about ways to help
Mhm.
wean yourself off of the medicine when you learn how to manage your neurochemicals naturally, if you will. So serotonin is a big one that people need to feel whole and happier. And a lot of people, they get on
Mhm.
these serotonin uptakes to actually increase the neurochemical serotonin in their brain, and that's what is found in depression medication. And so let me let me let
Right.
me let me
100%.
put it in the dose, your daily dose aspect, because that's what we hear a lot in social media. Did you get your daily dose? And what does that actually mean? And so, do you mind now for me to go through each one? And if you have a question for me before I move to the next one, you can just throw your hand up and I'll stop, and we can go back and forth. So I'm going to
Okay.
start with the dopamine. And so dopamine, we need to activate that in drips. So, dopamine is that reward chemical that is activated when you reach a goal, when you smile, when you have fun. That is activated.
Right.
So, the way that you can activate that in small drips, and I'll explain to you why you want to do it in small drips, is because, well, how you can do it again is through smiling, setting small goals throughout the day, reaching those goals, and celebrating your progress, celebrating that you
Yep.
achieved that goal. And you want to do that all through the day. And your brain will say, "Oh, this feels good. I want to keep moving forward. I want to keep pursuing goals." And here's another thing about that.
Right.
I had a task that was very draining to me at one point. It was very tedious, it was very draining, and I needed to find a way to get that task done and feel good about it. And so I start
Mm.
applying every time I finish one document within that package, I'm celebrating. Yes, I did it, patting myself on the back. And the activity became enjoyable. And so every time now that I complete that project and it's a monthly thing, I'm happy because I'm getting it done and serving a purpose. It's necessary that the report is done and I'm feeling good about it. Okay,
Yep.
so let me talk about the drip aspect. So the reason you want to get it in drips is because dopamine is that high that you get through actually food. It could be unhealthy
Mm.
food. It could be drugs. It can be your social media, your phone, being on your phone, scrolling through Facebook or internet. I almost dropped something through Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth. And you can actually
Mm.
desensitize though the dopamine, and so you need to get more, so you start doing more extreme things so that you can get that dopamine hit. If it's through drinking, you'll start drinking more because you want to get that hit. And I can say more about that, but time I don't think will allow for that because I want to talk about the other ones. So before I move to oxytocin, when I talked about women need more oxytocin, do you have any comments about the dopamine? Any questions about getting your dopamine in small drips?
No, I know from my own life that's been important because you can desensitize. It's kind of like for people, if you take allergy meds or when you take other medications and then they just don't work the way that they used to because you've desensitized. I know someone who actually, a really good friend of mine, she ended up struggling with cocaine. And then she went to NA, for cocaine. And then she went from cocaine, which is the complete opposite of weed, but then she jumped into weed, complete opposite, like opposite thing, had to keep going to NA. Then she went from there to something else and then to food. And then she had to go to OA because none of the highs were high enough because she just, and she kept indulging it. And when you were talking, that's exactly what I was thinking of is like,
Yes.
right? It's exactly the same thing. So thank
Exactly.
you for
And
that.
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. When you desensitize, you move on to something else, still trying to get that hit, still trying to get that high. And trust me, I know how that high feels. It feels really good. And I will give you a quick story. Some years ago, my back went out on me. I could barely move. I
Mm,
I hurt so bad,
mm,
and I finally got medication from the doctor. They gave me whatever they gave me. And baby, I want you to know,
right.
I felt so good after I took that medication. I felt like I could conquer the world. I felt like I could fly. I got up, I was moving, I was doing Zumba, exercising, only to re injure my back again. But the medicine had me
Mm,
feeling so good and so high and
mm,
oh my goodness, like I
mm,
could do anything. I said, if something makes me feel this good, I don't want it because this is something that I could get
mm,
addicted to. Because me feeling like I could literally go on top of a building and start flying, I felt like that was not healthy. And so So I stopped it. I was like, nope, this got me feeling too good. And I was like, oh, now I get how that
Good for
euphoric
you.
feeling feels, where you feel like you are invincible. And I felt, oh my goodness, like I was
Right,
invincible. And I would love to
right,
have that feeling naturally, because of me managing the neurochemicals that make me feel vibrant, invincible, and that I
right,
can achieve and do anything that I want to do. And we can have that naturally in drips. And so I want to move on to the oxytocin. So, women, we have so many things that we have to be concerned with through the years. We have, our child rearing years. We're having kids. We're managing a family. For those who have been in partnerships, you have the partnership, then you have your careers, and then you have the house you got to clean
right,
and take care of your own self, and so many things to tend to. And with so many
right.
things, women can easily become overwhelmed. Not to mention, we have our own hormone cycle going on in our body every single month. And so,
Right,
cortisol
right.
is that neurochemical that I wanted to talk
Mm,
about, that if you stay in a cortisol induced state on a regular basis, that's not a healthy state. And so, how do you dial
mm,
down the cortisol for women? So, cortisol is that neurochemical that wakes us up, that alerts us. It's that fight, flight, freeze part of us
right.
that is
Yes.
necessary. It wakes us up in the morning, so it's necessary. It keeps us alert, so it is necessary. But how do you not operate in that area chronically? And what I mean
Mhm.
by that, you're in that state because what happens, we pick up weight. You have weight gain when you have more cortisol. You have more stress in
Mm,
your life. You can
mhm.
suffer various ailments when you are always in a state of cortisol, and you don't have
Right.
much joy and happiness in your life. You may have a little, glimpses of it, but most times you're so on
Mhm.
edge. And I know there was one point in my life where I was so on edge till I decided, let me take a calendar and start charting my days, start charting how I
Right.
felt through the day. And I was surprised. Ultimately, I found out I had more good days than bad days. And you know, it's interesting when you're in that state where you're always like you're overwhelmed. It's just you're yelling at people,
Right.
you're reacting, and then you start feeling good. You tend to think something is wrong
Mhm.
with you because you have been so used to
Oh,
being in that state
mhm.
to when you're not there, you think, what is wrong? What's
Right.
really happening? This is too good to be true. The shoe is gonna drop, something bad's gonna happen. But your natural state should be
Right.
one where you are happy, you feel joyous throughout the day. So for oxytocin for women, what you want to do is practice loving on yourself. You want to love on others. You want to
Mm,
love on yourself. You want to be kind. You want to do acts of kindness. And Miss Cindy, there is an exercise called the mirror exercise. Yes, where you get up in that mirror and you love on yourself. And I like to pair it with havening. Havening is a self soothing technique. You can induce or activate oxytocin by loving on someone, by giving a person a hug, and, again, doing
yep.
kind things for others. But when you don't have that in your life, then you get to practice it on yourself. And havening is
Yep.
really one way that you can do it. And so, if I may demonstrate, and I would invite the audience, you can do this with me. And so, pretty much, you want to cross lateral, you want to cross your arms over your shoulders, and What I also want to tell you about this, when you're doing this, when you're crossing over, you're actually activating both parts of your hemisphere. So, which is good because that helps keep
Yeah.
you balanced as well. And so, with the havening, you want to just stroke
Yep.
down your arms and you want to feel that loving feeling. And you're just stroking down your arms. And what this is also doing when your cortisol is high, you're actually calming down your nervous central system, and you're actually getting into that parasympathetic nervous system part of you. And so when you're doing this and you're looking in the mirror and you look at yourself lovingly, you want to say your name, and then you want to say you are love, you are loving, you are love, you are lovable. And so it goes something like this: Michelle, you are loved, you are loving, and you are lovable. And you want to tell yourself you love you. You can say, Michelle, I love you. And so this right here will soothe you. It will activate the oxytocin within you, and it will start calming you down. Even in the morning when I wake up, I will actually do some havening before I get out of bed to start activating the oxytocin. And so you're getting a 3 for 1 here. The 3 for 1 is that you are actually balancing your brain by the cross the lateral.
Yep.
You're actually
Yep.
stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system, and you are boosting your
Mm,
oxytocin through this. And so
mm,
if you do that in the mirror, if you do it before you get out of bed, you're winning right there, because before you get up, you're
100%.
feeling good. You do it in the mirror, you're feeling good. And I love that mirror exercise because you're accepting yourself for who you are, where you are, loving every bit of you while working on yourself. And that's what I call happy from the inside out. And so before I move to the serotonin, I want to see if you have any questions.
Well, I just have something to add. I love this. I love this synergy. I was talking with one of our good friends before this call, and he had said Johnny Pardo, and we love
Yes.
Johnny. And he had said, he makes a list of what shows up in your life. And one of the things we literally talked about was havening from a standpoint. I mean, we literally, even both of us did the movement. I mean, it was like 20 minutes before I climbed on with you. And I shared with him something that I do in the mirror that I actually got, which I don't know if I shared this with him, from our good friend Everly. And it's something I added to my mirror exercise. And when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, Cindy, I promise you that, and then fill in the blank. I promise you that I will keep you safe. I promise you that I will, or that you are, or that whatever that is. And there's something so powerful, right? You and I know when you're looking in the mirror eye to eye, and then I promise you that. And the other thing that we talked about, even, and this is a little bit elevated, I know, from this conversation, even if you go into your own meditative practice or whatever you're doing, or if you imagine, if you don't, and when you think of the word imagine, image in. So just bring the image in, imagine you at this age are talking to you at 2, 3, whatever, and you're telling yourself, Cindy, you are lovable. And when you do that from those different stages in your life, whether it's 3-year old, 10-year old, 12, 18, what you will see and feel is it literally energetically shifts parts of your history, even the stories that you tell yourself about it, because you are then coming, as you create that love to that little
Yes.
you, right? You then start to come from the lens of your heart and see things through the lens of your spirit and your heart versus the lens of any wounds that
Yes.
you had. And so it's so powerful what you're sharing, because these are the scientific ways to do
Yes.
this with I mean, she's giving you, so I'm excited to keep taking notes. I have 2 pages, and yes, I've done a similar sort of, both of us are the brain revolution, Dr. Amen. brain health coach certifications, et cetera, neurocoding. And yet I love, again, 2 pages of notes, girl. So keep
Yes,
going.
yes, yes.
So
So
thank
just
you.
lastly on the oxytocin, I want to make sure that we also know
Mhm.
that's that bonding neurochemical. So for people who find themselves alone, if you have a pet and you're bonding with your pet, that is so important. The social aspect, getting out amongst people and having a community to be in, that is very, very helpful. And that also helps with the
Mhm.
serotonin. So serotonin,
Yeah.
is looked at in various ways, but really serotonin is about being prideful. I'm going to use the word prideful right now, but being pleased with yourself, having respect for yourself,
Mm.
having respect for things that you do. And so, how you activate that serotonin is by congratulating yourself, being proud of yourself, respecting yourself. And when people's serotonin starts to wane, if you will, sometimes it's because they're comparing themselves to others. And we know that that's a thief, because when you're comparing yourself to
Yeah.
others, you're not being grateful for what you have and what you have accomplished. And so what you can do is practice gratitude. Gratitude, it stimulates all of the ones that I've talked about. And we have talked about gratitude on previous shows. That is the quickest way to
Mm.
elevate your mood. And when you're elevating your mood, it simply comes down to you are activating the neurochemicals to make you actually feel
Yes.
so much better. And so with the serotonin, you find that people, they want to one up each other. So when you are one upping each other, say in a conversation, you're actually activating serotonin. So if somebody tells you, okay, and this is not in a this is from and it can be healthy. So I'm not saying it as if it's a competition.
Right.
It's a healthy
Right.
dialogue between two people who are just sharing experiences with one another. It
Yeah.
may in some cases be that one up. Well, I got the Mercedes. Well, I got the Rolls Royce, so it's that kind of one upping, but again, it can be healthy, but that's activating serotonin. So, serotonin, you
Okay.
activate that by applauding yourself, celebrating yourself, respecting yourself, honoring your word, honoring your values, your core values. And so, that's more of how you activate the serotonin. And if people understand that, then more people would realize that they don't need medication to activate serotonin.
Right.
They will just do the natural things in terms of being proud of their accomplishments, knowing that they have something to contribute to this world and that they're celebrating what they contribute to the world, even if it's just to a little kid. We all have something to offer. And so, before I move to endorphins, do you want to add anything about how to activate the serotonin?
Yeah, the when you're proud of
Mhm.
yourself, right? Again, in the mirror, Cindy, I am so proud of you because, and then launch off on, I'm so proud of you because you had 10 appointments this week and you were on time every time. Or I'm so proud of you because you had an opportunity to lose your stuff this week and you chose that love, or I mean, even basic things. I'm so proud of you. Some of you that are watching right now, you can say, I'm so proud of you because you folded the clothes and put them away and didn't get dressed from your couch. Or you literally got
Yes,
off the couch, or you washed your dishes before you went to bed and didn't wake up to a sink full of dishes, or you washed half of the
yes,
dishes, or you drank your water, right? All of that stacks on top of each other, like you said, and then that creates that and exercises that serotonin muscle. So
yes.
keep going,
And, and,
girl.
and
This is
this is all about your pharmacy within, your chemical
yes,
cocktail that you are activating within. And
Love
so
it.
let's talk
Right.
about the endorphins. The endorphins, that is our natural opioid. That is your natural
Mhm.
painkiller when you activate endorphins. And endorphins make you feel really, really good. Now, have you heard of
Right.
people getting the runner's high when they're running and they feel so good? Well, that's good, but we don't want to have to run really hard just to get that
Nope. Nope.
endorphin
Not
endorphins
this
to kick
girl.
in. So just having a great belly laugh, just laughing from the belly will activate endorphins. Yes, exercise will actually activate endorphins as well. And then what you can do throughout the day, you can get up and do, they say high intensity. You can do some high intensity movement throughout the day to activate the endorphins. And all of that
Mhm.
is actually very healthy for you. Laughing is medicine for the soul. Smiling, of course, when you're laughing, you're smiling, so you're activating the dopamine. You're most times when you're laughing, there is a connection there. So there's that oxytocin. The serotonin is activated as well. And so smiling and getting that movement in, and so some people don't like to exercise. And again, as I mentioned, exercise is a way to activate the endorphins. But if you don't like to exercise, just getting more movement in will do the trick. So you can get
Right.
up and you can do some cross crawls. And when you do those cross crawls, that's just tapping one hand over the other. And you're actually lifting your knees at the same time. You're actually, and you do that for a period of time and do it with intensity, you're activating your endorphins. You're actually stimulating your brain. As Jim Quick reminds us, when you move, you're creating grooves. So you're moving and you're creating the neural pathways in your brain to feel good. And when you feel good, you want to keep doing
Mhm.
it. You want to do it again because when you feel good, you get more things done. And so the other chemical that I wanted to talk about is the adrenaline. When you get that adrenaline rush,
Mhm.
we do get that adrenaline rush because we got to get out of somewhere. You get that adrenaline rush when you're ready to fight.
Right. Get out of
So the cortisol
Right.
and the adrenaline,
Right.
they serve their purpose, but you don't want to stay in heightened states where you have those neurochemicals activated all the time. That's not healthy for you. That constricts your blood flow, and you've heard of people having heart attacks, strokes, because those chemicals are activated more than they should be. And so now that you understand how to activate the feel good neurochemicals, you can actually manage those neurochemicals more better. Like I said, more better is the best word I can come up with. And you
More better.
Yes,
More
you
better.
can create again that positive brain environment that will support your mental and your emotional well-being. And because of that, it will lead to you having a better self-image. You will actually find yourself reaching your goals more, and you will just be a more happier and more fulfilled. And so there are some
Yeah.
other things that you can do to activate those chemicals. I know we're almost out of time, so I want to turn it over to you. And then if we want to explore any more, we can, any more things that you can do to activate those chemicals to get your daily dose to keep that pharmacy within you healthy. But for
Love
right
that.
now, I'll turn it
Love
back
that.
over to you.
Well, it's thank you and thank you. And I am already saying we're going to do a second show to follow up on all of this because this is so valuable, especially going into what notoriously can be for some people the holiday season, a really tough time and a time where they really need to tap into that pharmacy within. So I want to share something. I had a conversation. There were four of us in this conversation, and one of the women in the conversation had said that she went to the doctor and she said, I'm so depressed. I'm so depressed. And we're like, well, what? And went to the doctor, and I'm so upset about my weight. But I love to eat, but I'm so upset about my weight. And she's talking about the massive amounts of different types of food that she gets and all these kinds of things, sugar and laced and all of it. And instantly, one of the people in the conversation, and I almost said something, and then he stepped in and said, "You're not depressed. You're sad about that result." And I was the first person to say, "Yep, that's not depression, baby. You're just sad about that result." And you have to make a decision. Are you more sad about the result, or will you be more happy with a different result? Which one wins, right? And here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. How do you collapse time and mitigate that? What I say to that is there's very basic things, even things that you and I talk about. Are you getting your water in? Are you getting your rest in? Part again of that pharmacy within, right? Part of how you do that. All of these things, yes, if you're on meds, please don't stop taking your meds, and consult your doctor. Give them this episode. I watched this. What do you think? But all of these things are things that you can do that will not just create happy, but sustain happy, because you don't want just adrenaline spurts of happy. You want sustained happy. So I know we only have 2 minutes left. And yes, and let me just say, when you do that, you are creating your victorious life. I want to thank my precious, she's like family to me, Dr. Michelle Odette Green. Thank you so much for being here. Can't wait for you to come back. Where can people find you? Because getting a happiness coach would be fabulous. And we have 1 minute.
Yes,
Where
they
can they
can
find you?
me at successinactioninstitute.com. And and you can find me at www.drmichelleodette.com. And I do want to say this really, really quick, that self-talk is so important. Positive self-talk is so important. And also, I want you to know, when you are able to manage your neurochemicals, you're actually inspiring others to do the same. And that turns into joy, that joy that we talked about that passes all understanding. And so I wanted to make sure that I add that, because I want people to know, when you are doing what's good for you and practicing what we talked about, you inspire others to do the same. And so I look forward to someone reaching out to me. Yes.
Yes, and please reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook, The Victory Network on Facebook, or Cindy Gould. And this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check us out, spanglishworld.ca, for all your news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thank you. We love you. Thanks so much.